Hey everyone, Aaron here, and welcome back to the Anime Talk, the show that asks the question, is hype a good or bad thing? Now, last week, I presume last week, we talked, like I said, that I was going to do like a three-part The Anime Talk, but it's three subjects entirely. But they do have to do with one another kind of in a way. Today we're going to say, though, what does hype do for anime? Does it always do what it's intended to do? Now, very often you'll hear that something is very hyped and you'll be like, oh wow, with this show I keep hearing about it on every social media format. I hear people reviewing on YouTube. I hear, it's just everywhere. It's in your face. It's on, websites you go to. It's in every possible place that you could look at and you find it. You start seeing it then in stores. You start seeing it in like little boutiques of people selling little trinkets from that series. And before you know it, you're looking at the biggest hyped anime ever. Let's take example Full Metal Alchemist. If you guys weren't around during when Full Metal Alchemist became hype, I was. Full Metal Alchemist is like Death Note in many ways. When FMA came out, especially the 2003 version, there was a boom about the series. Like you would see everywhere. Oh, do you have the first volume of the first manga? No, sir. We're sold out entirely. Just we're not gonna get it probably until next week or next month. We keep selling out right away. Oh, hey, look, do you want to buy this little trinket? It's like a little action figure of Al or Alphonse or Edward Elric. We have one for Winry. They had figures in bookstores. Like, I remember Borders, if anyone remembers Borders way back when. That was a big bookstore chain that existed until Barnes& and Noble bought it out. Borders had, everything to do with Full Metal Alchemist. Like, I mean, there were sections in the manga that were just dedicated to Full Metal Alchemist. You had the figures of Alphonse, Roy Mustang. You had Winry as a figure. I mean, you could go everywhere in the store and find calendars. You could find like book bookmarks for stuff. It was crazy. It was just one of the shows that got hyped like that. Death Note when it came out, there were people buying, and I remember school being really strict on this. People were buying books that said Death Note on it, and they were writing people's names that they didn't like in the schools, and that was a big media buzz on it, like going, you can't bring these to school; they're illegal, and we'll throw you out of the school for the day or suspend you or whatever if you bring them. The hype is real. Hype for anime could do amazing things. Like people don't understand. I think some of you that are brand new to anime do not fully understand that. What got you into anime? Think really hard about that. Not for some of you, you're gonna say, "Oh, I just randomly found a series and I watched it, and I watched and then two more series after that, and four more, etc., until it built up." For a lot of you, look back at your first anime. Even if it was Pokemon, if it was Digimon, who told you about that? Did you see it on TV yourself? Or did one of your friends at school, and I guarantee you this happened, one of your friends at school go, hey, hey, Jimmy, I watched this great show on TV yesterday called Pokemon. It's got these little creatures that are fighting, and, they really attack each other with fireballs and lightning, and, you know, by the way, that was me trying to do a kid voice. But yeah, seriously, it's crazy because then you think about it, you're like, wow, you know what? Holy crap, he's right. I watched half this stuff. I almost cursed. Um, I watched half this stuff via other people telling me about it, and it happens. It's understandable. I mean, for example, my one friend who I always talk about him because I like to use him as a kind of I guess tool in the sense that you explain things with him. He is, and I don't mean to call. I'm not calling him a tool, by the way. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I use him as a tool in the sense to explain everything off of that because it's easier to do. When I told him all the stuff to watch, and he started watching a lot of the shows he watched because I recommend him the shows to watch. And what was funny about that was essentially I hyped him up into watching show. And sometimes though, this is what I'm talking about. Hype is not always a good thing. Really is not. I hyped him into watching, I believe, I'm trying to remember what series it was, and it's killing me that I can't remember exactly what show it was, and I apologize for that, guys. But I hyped him into watching a show, and what was funny about it was it had the negative effect that I was like, oh, Bakemonogatari, that's what it was. Thank you. I could not remember for the life of me. I don't know who I'm thinking, by the way, because I'm alone in my room right now, so I'm looking around. Someone reminded me. Maybe Ghost. Anyway, no, but Bakemonogatari. I love Bakemonogatari. It's one of my favorite series. I think it was my top 10 best anime of all time on the top 50 I made a long time ago. Uh, but what was funny about it was I hyped him up into watching and said, you got to check this show out. This show is great. You'll love it. He wanted something smart. He wanted something a little different. So I said, it's got comedy. It's got funny, weird stuff in it. It's a little odd. It's a lot of talking, a lot of monologuing, but you'll like it. Lo and behold, this is where we always kind of get into an argument about this, but he says he watched it under certain circumstances that made him dislike the show, which is okay. I give him that. He was new to subtitles, so he's still getting used to it. And I told him, I kind of warned him that I didn't want him to watch it right away yet. I wanted him to watch it later on, but he took the big dip into it and watched the show despite him only watching a few subtitle shows at the time. And I said, okay, no big deal. So, you'll like it probably still. He didn't like it. He thought, he got bored of it. He got tired really fast. And I was like, oh, that sucks. Here I hyped this show up so much. And he's like, nah. Equally, other people have hyped shows up for me. Like, I mean, when I first watched One Piece, people were hyping that up to me nonstop. And I was around when One Piece started. And, for me, I was really looking forward to it. And because people were saying, oh, dude, you'll love One Piece. It's one of the best anime ever made. And as you guys know, I'm not a huge One Piece fan. I don't hate it. I don't hate One Piece. I always tell people that because they hear, I think, I don't like it per se. They hear that and they go, oh, he must hate it. Oh, right away the pitchforks come out and the torches come out. It's not that I hate the show. It's a great show in its own right. I mean, look at the fan base for it. You got a huge fan base for it, so it's showing that it's definitely doing something right. I don't like it because I never got into it. I think it was overhyped for me when I watched it first. When I first watched it, it was still new. It was only like episode 10 at the time when it was hyped to me. But it was so hyped up. I'm like, what am I looking at? That's so interesting. I was watching and I'm like, okay, cool design, cool concept. I like the art a little bit. It's something unique and different. Like I said last episode, the art wasn't what got me sucked into it, but I gave it a chance. But I didn't find any of that same pleasure that people were hyping me into. Like, people were telling me, oh, the manga's great, the anime's even better. And I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see it. And that's what happens. Shows get so hyped up that it almost kind of pushes you away. It makes you go, well, I don't know if do I like this? I don't know if I want to watch it because I don't feel like, it's going to deserve the hype. And equally, sometimes you watch it thinking that it's going to be the best show you've ever watched and go, this is garbage. What are you guys talking about? And then you become one of the minorities that say, I hate this show, when equally there's like 300 people against you. It's 300 to 1 odds of you saying something that's correct because it's just for you, it was overhyped and you had high expectations. That's why part 3, which is like the actual last part of this kind of part 3-part series, it's going to be about pushing anime on people. And I really want to get into that in a whole different anime talk, so that's why today we're done. Beyond the word hype, it's something that hype to me is a double-edged sword. To kind of close this argument out and kind of give you guys really closure on this subject. Hype can be something that really makes new anime something huge. It can create this kind of franchising out of it that you don't see in every single format of anime. I mean, there's plenty of anime that I love that. Do you see Clannad keychains being sold everywhere? No. Do you see Excel World, which is made by the same people who made Sword Art? Do you see that being published everywhere? No. But you see Sword Art keychains everywhere. You see Attack on Titan keychains everywhere. You see, and I'm just using the keychain as an example. You see that everywhere because this franchise has become the hype has become so real for it that it's made something into something that's even beyond what you can understand. And you know what? Are those shows great? Yeah, no. I mean, Sword Art, I've never been a huge fan of the anime itself. I've been a huge fan of light novels. Like, I know the storyline for Sword Art so much, even though people say, well, you're not a huge fan of the anime. I'm not a huge fan of the anime. But I've read every book, on the series. I've read every manga on it because I love the franchise. I love the actual stuff it's based off of. But the anime, I'm not a huge fan of. It's just hype for me almost put me away toward that. Because, the hype for that also was something that I think a lot of people got into and they went like, it's not that great, so it's okay. Because the people I talked to that were watching Sword Art, for example, not to get into a rant about this, but the people that were watching Sword Art, I think, were really new to anime. A lot of them were, and it's kind of funny because you can tell who's new to anime when they talk about certain things. And one of the key points that I kept seeing was that they say, "Oh, this is one of the coolest things I ever saw," and I'm like, compared to what? You heard, like, I loved about it. I think Simply Rose, and because I said her name, and I always do this. Whenever I say someone's name, I put if they have a channel, I put their channel in the description box. So I will have her channel in the description box for this. But what's funny was, I laughed when he told me, he goes, "Oh, it's the best thing in the world. This is something that is amazing. Why aren't there more things like it?" I'm like, what are you comparing it to? What are you talking about? There's other stuff that looks better than Sword Art. and there's other stuff that's way more popular than Sword Art. So you're hyping it to who? You know? Oh, then he goes, "Oh, this is my first anime." I'm like, "Oh, that's." It's the first anime syndrome, which is gonna be a whole new topic in probably a later video. I'm not doing that soon, but it's that first anime that you watch and go, "Wow, I gotta hype this to the world." And you know what? It works to a point, but it also works to detriment. You know, hype is again a double-edged sword. It's something that it can backfire easily on you. It really can. But anyways, the next part of this, which I said already before, which I was gonna actually originally end this thing at like 8 minutes, but I didn't do it because I wanted to keep going. Um, is gonna be about pushing anime and how that kind of makes hype, I want to say, a little bit less effective. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you guys always enjoy these things. I mean, I have fun doing them, but you know, my fun comes out of you guys enjoying the content and liking it. So please like, comment, subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. Look on my Twitter. I have a Twitter account. If you want to follow me, go ahead. If you don't, it's up to you. You can look on my anime list if you want to. Also, you know, by the way, if you notice I don't talk about my anime list all the time, it's because to me it's like, okay, you're following my anime list, it's great, but I also, when I review those things on there, like I put number scores on there if you've never seen it before. It's like those are not the actual numbers that I'm using for actual reviews. Like sometimes I have like 5 or 6 because I'll say this right now, I've never understood why my, you know what? No, I'm not gonna get to it. I'm not gonna get into that why yet. I don't want to do that. But eventually I'm gonna talk about that. What I have issue with my anime list, but that'll be a whole new separate thing. Anyways, guys, have a great weekend. Until we talk again later. Bye bye.